All right, guys. We're having another amazing day here at LouddMouth Radio Network. And for this segment in the studio with Sonny, I have a very, very special guest that I want to welcome to our platform and is giving us an opportunity to get some insight, education on some historic films in our hip-hop community for those who may or may not have heard of Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. This movie came out in 1984, and it's a classic. And so I have an opportunity to be so I should say our privilege as a radio network to be a media sponsor of an amazing event that's happening out here in Los Angeles this month starting on December 19th. And my guest today is a media personality, a producer, a comedy activist, a Madam Ambassador of House. And you guys know I'm from Chicago, so the house heads can appreciate that, right? And electric dance music. She's based out of Chicago, and she is here with us today to discuss plans as she is helping to facilitate the 40th anniversary of Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo reunion. Welcome, Mother Diva.
Hey, Sonny, LouddMouth. I love it.
Welcome. How are you today?
I'm excited to be here.
I love it. I want to tell you, it's such a amazing way in which we've come together, and I'm going to share that with the audience. But I want to give you an opportunity.
Honey, we met over deep dish Chicago deep dish pizza
in Long Beach, California.
In Long Beach, of all places.
And it's been, I don't know, like a couple years, right?
I'm still trying to remember because the last time.
I want to say
I was there in 2022, but I come every year. So every year I come and get that pizza because whenever I come to LA, I still want to taste the Chicago. Like, there's a Harold's Chicken on the Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
And it's also one in Culver City.
Yes. So, it's one of those things. There's quite a few people that are from Chicago in the, Metro Los Angeles and Southern California area, which is where I am. And so the irony, and I can't remember, I think I struck up a conversation with you and gave you my business card. So I was so surprised when you reached out to me and then you shared with me what you were doing. And it was so intriguing and all the opportunity that I want to make sure that our audience gets to hear about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
We got some people who would definitely remember this film. There are some who may have never seen it. And ironically, those who are breakdance, enthusiasts, or you become interested because, the Olympics recently had a whole breakdancing segment in the Olympics, which was very interesting. They got a lot of buzz. So I think it's making its way into our younger generation, right?
Absolutely. There are tons of, if you go on social media, there are tons of young people who have gotten into popping and locking and breakdancing. And the irony in this film, the film really should have been called Pop Locking or something like that. I mean, they, from the research I've done and just different people that I've spoken with about it, the reason they called it Breakin' was because that was the commercial name for it. Right. But if you actually look at the film, there was more popping and locking. They did do some breakdancing, but people like Poppin' Taco and Michael Boogaloo Shrimp Chambers, who played Turbo in the film, they're pop lockers. Poppin' Pete, Poppin' Pete will tell you, he's very adamant. He will tell you, I am not a break dancer. I pop and lock. And in fact, Poppin' Pete goes overseas. He's overseas right now. He travels to China, Thailand, Japan, teaching young people popping and locking, and he's in his 60s now. So just to refresh. Yeah, just to refresh people.
That's when it's a passion and people are, they're committed to the craft. And what I want to do, Mother Diva, I want to back you up just for a second and give you an opportunity to introduce a little bit about yourself and how you got connected to this film.
Okay. So when I was 13 years old, first of all, I'd always been a house head. I started listening to WBMX It was a show every Saturday night called Saturday Night Live Ain't No Jive Chicago Dance Party. And it was the Hot Mix 5, which is 5 DJs, and they played house music on 102.7, which was WBMX. Mm-hmm. And I would listen to that, and I would look at Saturday Night Live. So this is how I started developing this osmosis later on, which became Mother Diva's house music comedy shows. And I would have house music, and then comedians come in and do little shows.
That's so.
Yeah, it was. Well, the thing is, I kind of took from what hip hop was doing, because hip hop is a culture that is involved with everything. They have clothing, they have film, they have a style, they have culture. So I was trying to bring some of that to house music later on in my career. But going back to when I was a child, so breakdancing, in 1983, 84 became this phenomenon, and so of course, at that time, I was in 7th and 8th grade and, would hang out with the kids. And so when Breakin came out, we went to see Breakin. So I go to this movie theater. I'm like 13, and I go to the movie theater. And so in the beginning of the film, they open the film up, and they have a boom box, and, you see little parts, they kind of tease you. You see Ozone's hand, you see his ear. When that man turned and looked at the camera, every woman in the theater just was like, "Oh my God, he was the prettiest." This man was so gorgeous.
He was heartthrobbing.
My goodness, I just could, his beauty. You were just so taken by his beauty, and then he was a dancer. So you fell in love with this. You fall in love with this movie. This movie was about hope. And if anybody's familiar with Breakin' One tells the story of street dancers who connected with a ballet dancer, and they mixed it all up, and they were able to get an audition for a major
Mother Diva, say that again. You say that first part again.
Which part?
When you just said which movie you said?
Breakin' One, the first
one. Okay.
So it tells the story of street dancers who connected with a ballet dancer, and they mixed the ballet with the street dancing, and they were able to get an audition for this Broadway show. And the professional dancers that were ran by this company tried to block them. And so the movie was like, you are not, it was like, you can't stop us. They were going to do that audition anyway. And I mean, it's so emotional towards the end. And when you listen to Boogaloo Shrimp tell the story about how Shabba-Doo really just got emotional at the end, he had like a meltdown because in some ways, Ozone's character was a lot like what Shabba-Doo had gone through in his life, just trying to make it to the top. So they get the Broadway show, they make it, okay, so that's the end of Breakin' One. So Breakin' Two comes, and now, okay, they did the show, but now what they learned is that shows don't last forever. So now they're out struggling again, trying to get more shows, and they get involved with this community center called Miracles. And Miracles has art programs, they have graffiti drawing, they have dancing classes. So the ballet dancer comes back and gives back to the community and starts teaching there. Well, some developers come into the community and want to tear Miracles down. And so they protested and they raised money to save Miracles, and it was just amazing. It was like a break dance musical. And what happened for me, because I come from a background of growing, and growing up in Chicago is not easy. It's very rough. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I was born on the north side. I grew up on the south side. I come from a mixed family, so I'm mixed race, plus size. So I had it rough my whole life. I experienced abuse from my mother. I had been sexually assaulted as a baby, and I had just went through a lot.
Girl, got a lot of similarities there, honey. That's crazy.
Yeah. So these movies and house music is what got me through it. I mean, the abuse got so bad for me. My mother used to tell me every day she hated me, she wished death on me, and it got so bad that I attempted suicide actually when I was 13.
Ooh,
and
girl, parallel.
yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, and that was the suicide attempt was in between Breakin 1 and Breakin 2. So when the suicide attempt, it didn't even it did. I took a bunch of pills and they actually made me feel better. So,
Girl, but
yes,
it feels like we're having the same walk.
we having the same conversation because all of us in entertainment.
I was at the same age, had some similar.
Yes. Well, most of us in the entertainment industry are bonded by some trauma. And like with you, with your comedy, we learn to take the trauma and try to turn it into comedy, and it's healing, to help others.
Yes. So between the art, the comedy for me and my basketball, those were the two things that would get me through.
I can see that.
I get it. Mm-hmm.
So what happened was, after my sister decided to take me in for a few months, and then I ended up right back with my mom because my sister was, 14 years older than me. So she's 27, living with her fiance, and she's not equipped to deal with an emotionally disturbed, wild teenager. So I ended up back with my mom. It was talked about my mother and father reuniting because my mother and father were separated. They were still married. And then I wish I could have went and lived with my dad, but my father worked for the post office, and so he worked 3 to 11. So he wouldn't have wanted me to be home after school by myself. I would have had to end up with my aunt. But I just feel like they didn't really fight for me. So this is why I'm so passionate about fighting for others, about fighting for seniors, fighting for children, fighting for the, being the voice for the voiceless. And I became a community activist. And I continue the legacy of impactful work. So I'm actually a community liaison to national legislators. And what I do in that capacity as a volunteer, I get people honorary street signs, holidays, proclamations, and resolutions, impactful people. So what happened was how I ended up connecting to actually the people who worked on Breakin. And this goes back to Michael Jackson. So my favorite Michael Jackson album was Off the Wall, and in 2014 was the 35th anniversary. It's the 45th anniversary now, but this was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that Shabba-Doo...
Off the Wall came out in 81?
79.
79. Oh, okay.
Yeah. August 10th, 1979.
Ooh, wow.
Yes. So what happened was I was putting together a children's show in L.A. to honor that album, and it was an award ceremony. And I thought to myself, I said, well, I know Shabba-Doo and Boogaloo Shrimp had worked with Michael Jackson. So I said, well, this will be a perfect opportunity to also honor 30 years of Breakin. So I had reached out to the cast, and Kelly couldn't make it. The young lady who played Kelly, Lucinda, she couldn't make it. Phineas Newborn, he couldn't make it either. He was on the East Coast. Shabba-Doo was going to come, but then there was some issues with management or something. But Boogaloo Shrimp, the one that played Turbo, ended up coming. So he came, and we developed a friendship and a business relationship. And as we continue to grow in our industry, it was approaching 40 years of this film. But let me backtrack a little bit. How I ended up, so that's how I got connected to Shrimp. So ironically,
Boogaloo Shrimp Chambers, right?
Yes, Michael Boogaloo Shrimp Chambers. And let me tell you, he created this movement called Liquid Motion. And what he actually contributed to Michael Jackson was the side slides and the circular motions. If you look at like Smooth Criminal and different videos where Michael is, moving his head around in a circle, he's side sliding, doing all those things. And it wasn't just Shrimp. It was also Poppin' Taco and Poppin' Pete also worked with Mike. Michael Jackson worked with like 40, 50 different choreographers in it. They were just, he loved the street dancing. He incorporated the street dancing into a lot of his music videos and a lot of his tours. In fact, Poppin' Taco toured with him for many years. He was with Michael. So what happened was we were approaching how I ended up reconnecting with Shabba-Doo again was we were approaching the 50th anniversary of Soul Train. Now, you're a Chicago girl. Soul Train started here in Chicago. The first episode went live on August 17th, 1970. So in 2020, it commemorated the 50th anniversary. So I reached out to Shab, and Shab came on the show to talk about the beginnings of Soul Train. So he was on the first season of Soul Train with his sister Fawn. And they were dancers on that show. They were teenagers. When Soul Train left and moved to L.A., his mother wanted to get them out of the project. Shabadoo's family grew up in Cabrini Green. And so he's also mixed race, you know. And what was so interesting about him being mixed race is that it affected him positively and negatively. And then on the negative side, the gangs were trying to recruit him. So because he was mixed, he had the disciples, you know, on the black side trying to recruit him, and the Latin kings on his Puerto Rican side was trying to recruit him too. So his mother was like, we got to get out of here. So they moved to L.A., and they started dancing on Soul Train in Los Angeles as well, him and his sister Fawn. And Fawn was really the one who taught Shab a lot of these moves. Oftentimes, we as women don't get the credit, but we be the backbone. The same thing with the Jacksons, where a lot of people always give credit to Joseph, but it was really Mrs. Jackson and her sister-in-law who was pushing for the boys. At the end of the day, they were the ones who kept, you know, at Joseph about them. And a lot of times we as women don't get the credit, but Fawn is really the one who taught Shab a lot of those moves. And if you look at some old episodes of Soul Train, you can clearly see Fawn and Shabadoo dancing together, and she is a much stronger dancer at that time. Now, by the time he got to Breakin, he was polished. So we talked about that, and I said, well, listen, the city of Chicago named a holiday after me. April 16th is Madam Ambassador of House and Electronic Dance Music Day in Chicago. And I said, so I'd like to pay it forward and get you a holiday. And he was all for it.
April 16th, say it again.
Madam Ambassador of House and Electronic Dance Music Day. It's an honorary holiday, so it's not legal. It's just honorary.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the reason that I have a holiday that day is because April 16th in 2014 is when I started producing house and electronic dance music, health and wellness DJ sets at Daly Plaza, which is our court building downtown where the Picasso is. So every day they have these events for the lunch break from noon to 1. And so from April through October, I have DJs out there spinning house music. We have guest speakers. We give out information on health and wellness, information to detox the body, investing in gold and silver, survival techniques. We do all of that. What I was trying to do was incorporate an educational component into what I do in house music. So basically what happened, we were all set to give him a holiday, and a month later he had passed away, and we were just all devastated. So I ended up having my 50th birthday party in L.A., and it was a tribute to Shab. And I just was continuing the breakdance legacy. But before that even happened, when we were talking about the 50th anniversary of Soul Train, also that year, 2020, also commemorated the 40th anniversary of the Jacksons' Triumph album. And I was trying to get some musicians on my show to discuss that. So I looked up some musicians, and I found this one musician named Ollie Brown. And I said, is this the same Ollie Brown? I'm like, wait a minute. So I looked him up, and come to find out, Ollie Brown that played drums on the Triumph album is the same Ollie Brown that was with Ollie and Jerry that did the music for Breakin and Breakin 2. I was like, I was so excited. So I called, I left him a message, he called me back, and we talked. He came on the show. Mm-hmm. We stayed in contact. And so now it was time for the 40th anniversary of Breakin. And when I tell you, I got myself on that train. I went to L.A. I ordered a 40th anniversary banner that was red and black from Amazon, and we went down to the corner of Heliotrope and Melrose, And I tell you, Turbo redid his broom dance, and Kelly was there, Cupcake was there, Ollie, Poppin' Taco's sister came in place of him because, you know, Poppin' Taco has passed on. Shabadoo's sister, Fawn, was there. We just had a pop, lock, and break dance, a good time. It got 237,000 hits in the breakdance community. It was amazing. And so what I did was, because this commemorated the 40th anniversary, which made sense for them to have the breakdance competition in the Olympics, I wanted them to be honored by the city and state. So I went to Kevin DeLeon, the councilman for District 14, and he gave me certificates to honor them. And I also got State Senator Durazo, who is in District 26, which is where the movie was shot in many districts. But the broom dance that Turbo did is the most iconic scene from Breakin' 1. So that's why I wanted to do it on that corner. And the Senator Durazo gave certificates for that. So I told everybody, look, so let's talk about how Breakin', the first one, the budget for that movie was $1 million. It grossed $38 million.
Right.
Breakin' 2, right? Breakin'. Let me tell you what went on with Breakin' 2. So Breakin' 2 was actually what you call a salvation film, and what I mean by that is it has this whole salvation energy all over it. Sam Furstenberg, who's the director of Breakin' 2, because the director Joel Seberg of Breakin' 1 had passed on. So what happened was there was a film that came out in December, I guess it was November, December of 1984, called Supergirl. Supergirl was Superman's cousin. That film flopped, okay? And so they were looking. I
don't even remember that, Supergirl.
Yeah. Well, it was one of my favorite movies. I love Supergirl. I used to watch it all the time. But, you know, so I mean, what flops to the industry may be somebody else's, you know, golden, you know.
I remember that. I do remember her.
Right. Mm-hmm. So what happened was they needed to replace Supergirl. Mm-hmm. And this is what I feel, in a way, kind of hurt Breakin' 2, because a breakdance movie should always come out in the summer. It should never come out in the winter. Right. So because they were in the process of trying to replace that film, they ended up putting Breakin' 2 out on December the 19th is when it aired in L.A. December 21st is when it went national. So the budget for Breakin' 2 was $3 million. And it grossed $15 million, which it still did well because it grossed 5 times the amount that it took to make it.
It did better, but yeah, I get that.
Right, but that's because it came out in the winter. And even people living in Los Angeles, I mean, it's still a December movie, and December movies are supposed to be Christmas movies. Right. So, but it was more. It was a bigger production. It was more musical. I mean, the film was so amazing, where they were dancing in the street, they were dancing in the hospital. I mean, it was just, they were doing their battle. I mean, it was just a film that just, it was so much dancing and so much love and connection in this film. And then the love that they had for Miracles, to make sure that Miracles wasn't going to be torn down. And then Ozone running into the city council meeting. Like, this was just telling the story of my life now, because I'm constantly in city council meetings. You know, it's like this movie, 4 decades later, I'm living Breakin' 2. You know, so I said, well, so I put together a 3-day celebration, Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo 40th anniversary. And the first day, day 1, which is December 19th, we're going to gather in front of the building that was known as Miracles. And that is at 3 o'clock. The cast is going to be honored by the city council, and also some other surprises I didn't want to give away just yet. So that address is 2900 Calle Pedro Infante. And the name of the place now is called La Casa del Mexicano, but we call it the Miracles Building because that's what it was in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to gather there at 3. I'm going to have a little Breakin cake. We would love for people to come out, Breakin to Electric Boogaloo. We're gonna. I got the DJ, Chris the Glove, who was in the movie. He's gonna come and spin. So we're inviting the cast and crew out. I just spoke with Susie, who played Ozone's ex-girlfriend Rhonda. She's coming. I also spoke with Nick Siegel, who played Derek, the fiance to Kelly. He's coming. Ollie Brown, the music producer, is going to be there. The director is going to be there. And, of course, Michael Boogaloo Shrimp, a.k.a. Turbo, will be in attendance as well. So the second day, Friday, December 20th, at 1:30 p.m., we're going to be at the Silver Lake Public Library for a screening and Q&A of Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. And then Saturday, December 21st, we are still finalizing a location. We're trying to do a graffiti mural of Ozone and Turbo's garage. Because they lived in this garage, and they did everything in this garage, and it was so cute. Like, it's amazing things can come out of a garage. I don't know if you know this, but just for your listening audience, Apple was actually started in Steve Jobs' garage, Karen's garage.
That's right. I want to say even Jeff Bezos, he was storing his books and stuff like that at his house.
In the garage, And and that goes back to house music because there was a club in New York called Paradise Garage where they played disco. It was Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles, and then Frankie Knuckles ended up coming to Chicago, and he was spinning disco and R&B at a place called Us Studios, which ended up becoming, people started calling it a warehouse because it looked like a warehouse.
I remember the warehouse.
Yes, but actually when the warehouse started, it was called Us Studios because Robert Williams, the gentleman who started the warehouse, he wanted something for his people because when he would go frequent clubs as an African-American man, the club owners and the people at the door were they wanted birth certificates and credit cards and all this, but then other races of people were able to get in with just their ID. So he wanted to create a space for that. Yeah, you gotta interview Robert. Robert will tell you. House music was born out of segregation and discrimination.
Wow.
And all of the great music is born out of stuff like that. It's labor. It comes from, look, street dancing. Who started street dancing? It came from those communities.
Right.
So that was what was important. But people can go on my Facebook page. They can go to Mother Diva's house, and they scroll down. The invitation is there. I will be doing an Eventbrite. I apologize. We are working so hard, and we're getting things out late, unfortunately, because it's just the season. I have a toy drive on Saturday, December 14th, in front of Michael Jackson's childhood home at 2300 Jackson Street, and that starts at 9:30 in the morning, Chicago time. So I'm involved in so much, and I'm a one-woman operation, but we're going to make this work with people like you, LouddMouth Entertainment, for you guys to partner with me just to give me some exposure, to get people out to support. And if anybody wants to donate, if they want to sponsor, if they want to be a part of it, they can contact me through Mother Diva's House on Facebook, and they can call me. My number is 708-314-0291, and we can go from there.
Nice. Okay. Wow. So when I tell you, I think that, can I just commend you on, you're also a historian.
Yes, I'm a historian.
You have been dropping.
I'm a historian. I'm a historian. I know really a lot of what I'm a historian on. Michael Jackson is like, I am the historian, the Michael Jackson historian. I know I have a lot of his history.
I just think that it's amazing, and it's, people don't realize how much depth with film and television, and now remastered, what we call now, we're dealing with a lot of series, right? And the things that inspire the underlying stories that we come to be entertained by. I think there's just so much depth, just in this little bit of time. I was over here, like, I just found myself notating, because you were just dropping jewels, like, from one thing to the next. And it's so intricately webbed, right? So, like, Mother Diva, when you think about some of the amazing people that have contributed to the arts, right? And I just want to commend you on taking this on, and your passion it has been from day one. You called me about it. You've been excited each and every time you talk on, the sequence of things that are taking place, and really giving the culture an opportunity to show appreciation and gratitude for the contribution of what, a film like this has done, and will continue to do. That's one of the wonderful things that I think that I've come to appreciate as a creative, is that, whether it's a book, a film, a series, art, graffiti, just so many different things. Once they're created, it makes, what do they say? It gives you infinite life, right? The contribution of people's inspiration and seeing it in the art form just makes what is important for us as a society to intermingle with, So this is kind of like a breath of fresh air, being able to hear such a significant walk of history that you just gave. You allowed our listeners to have a journey, as you were just giving, take one to take two to take three, and, to be able to give people their flowers while they're still here,
Absolutely.
Because people are dropping, and unfortunately, a lot of the generation ahead of us, a lot of those people who were those forerunners for us, introducing hip hop, introducing breaking and pop locking, and this culture. And we've time and time again have seen the evolution of these types of things, like house music. You're talking about how the house music came about and the struggle, and how it inspired people to make decisions, to do things, to provide a safe haven, or to give life and voice to something. So I just want to commend you on doing what you're doing. And, for those who are especially in the Los Angeles area, if you may have a business, or you may know someone that could accommodate the garage set for this part.
Yes, because we're actually talking to some people on Venice Beach. They haven't finalized with us yet. As far as the space was concerned. But, yeah, we did want to do an Ozone and Turbo garage exhibit, but one of the graffiti artists came up with a really great idea, and he said, well, why don't you just paint a mural of it? And I said, well, that sounds good. Matter of fact, you were the one that told me, to do something like that. And I had talked to a few people, and it's like, yeah, a mural would be easier to do because you don't have to study everything that was in the garage, and the water hose, the chairs, and, it was a lot of stuff in that garage. I mean, I'm a detail-orientated person, and I would have wanted it to look that way. But to even do a mural of it would be great.
Right. Because it could give just the same effect. It can
give just the same effect, Yeah. And I actually wrote Breakin the musical that I'm actually trying to get. We just opened up. I don't know if you should know about it because you just came home. But Wind Creek Casino just opened in East Hazel Crest on 174th and Halsted.
About that.
And I've been talking to them about Breakin the musical, and also another Michael Jackson tribute show. So hopefully we'll see what happens, maybe 2026, because these films and this culture really did save lives. It got the kids, you know, they may have been on the street dancing on a cardboard, but they wasn't out there, you know, fighting and stabbing and robbing and doing any of those things. You know, they were just dancing. Right. And it's so interesting because when I interviewed Fawn, Shabadoo's sister, I said, well, you know, because my question was, you know, their mother's goal was to get them out of Cabrini Green projects and into a better community. So she moved to L.A. in the 70s. And so I asked Fawn, I said, well, Fawn, did you go from the frying pan to the skillet? Because it wasn't like they moved from Cabrini Green projects to Beverly Hills. They went from the Cabrini Green projects to still an urban community in L.A. They were still like in the hood in Los Angeles. And I said, so how did you avoid the gangs of L.A., you know, running from the gangs of Chicago? And she said, well, that's because all the gangbangers was dancing on Soul Train.
Oh, I can believe it. That's funny.
She said we were all dancing on Soul Train, so she said they didn't have that problem.
Mother Diva, let me tell you something. I've said this time and time again. I think I said this probably about 8 or 9 years ago. I said, you know, I believe that if you were to put a big, huge speaker in the middle of a war, it would stop everything. And play some house music. I said, I swear, I think house music would free so much anguish.
And not only that, like me and you, girl, we got to collaborate on some stuff. Because I said, you know what? If somebody came into a bank with a gun to try to rob a bank, everybody should just turn around and start pop locking and it's doing the snake and all. Everybody just start dancing.
They'll just dip out. They'll be like, oh man, I'm
right.
going to do something.
What do you do with that? They'll probably drop the guns and start dancing too.
I'm trying to tell you, then pass it to them. You know what I'm saying? Girl, that's hilarious.
That's what it is.
It's the truth. I think that, you know, especially for me, I think house music has always been that freedom of letting your soul go, you know, and because of that, I do believe that, you know, it's so funny. I was seeing some videos of this young man that's probably in his 20s, and he's doing footwork, right? And so people who are not exposed to Chicago house music, per se, they don't think they are. But if you watch Missy Elliott, a lot of her dancers, honey, a lot of the things you see in that, you know, that mixture of how, you know, go-go and stuff like that has evolved. But
well, she uses house music in some of her music.
She does. So that's why I'm like, you'll see a lot of those dancers doing footwork. And so to see, you know, like my sister was a part of, like, she used to dance in the Boogaloo parade all the time in the house troops, you know. And I could just remember as a freedom space to keep these kids from getting in trouble and fighting and shooting. And so it has its place, you know. I think that it has an opportunity to still put a safer zone, especially in a city as volatile as Chicago and LA.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those things that it can never get old, and I pray that it does not die out, and that you know, you don't see kids out like how we were. You know, we used to starve to go outside to play. There's this different societal interaction now, right? But what I wanted to do, give people, give your social media again, anything that could give essence to those can follow you. And
yes, okay.
We're gonna also, I'm gonna make sure we'll link in the description of the show as much as we can. And once you get your Eventbrite up, we'll also tag that into the content. But go ahead and give your information.
Okay, so I can be reached. Instagram, it's Mother Diva's House. TikTok, I'm Mother Diva's House. Facebook, I'm Mother Diva's House. X, a.k.a. Twitter, I am Mother Diva's Show because house was too long. Okay. So, yeah, and so all of the information regarding the event is up on Mother Diva's House on Facebook. We're waiting on the flyer to get done before we put it on any of the other social media platforms. But if you go to Mother Diva's House on Facebook, As soon as you go there and scroll down, it's at the top of the page. I pinned it to the top of the page, so they don't have to be scrolling too far to get all of the information. So I would just love for people to just come out Thursday, December 19th at 3 p.m. at 2900 Calle and Fente Pedro Avenue. It's the Miracles Building where the scene for the community center was shot. We're going to be in front of the building that they shot that at 3 p.m. and the cast and crew are going to be honored by the City Council of Los Angeles, and also there are going to be some other surprises there as well. And then Friday, December 20th, we're going to be at the Silver Lake Public Library, 1:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. for a screening of Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. And there's going to be Q&A with the director and some other cast members. I also have some raffle prizes that we're going to do trivia, and I'm going to be giving away. And these events are completely free. I feel that art and dance and everything that these films brought to my life was a gift. So I wanted to make sure that I was giving back. I didn't want to charge anybody anything. I just want people to come and support and just be there and relive this experience. And if you're a new generation street dancer, then come and learn some history about these films. And when Ozone and Turbo, when they came together, they made like a synergy. And it just became about Ozone and Turbo. And then there was Special K, who was their ballet dancer, who they mixed in with, what they were doing. So what's so interesting is that, we thought there was going to be a Breakin' 3, and it never happened. And so I said, well, you know what? I'll write Breakin' 3, because Breakin' 3 needs to be when Ozone met Turbo. Like, how did these two even meet, And they living in a garage. Whose garage is it? Where was Turbo's parents? Because he was clearly a teenager.
Right.
So it's like all these unanswered questions about Ozone and Turbo. It's like he living in his parents' garage, and I noticed that about LA. Like in LA, a lot of people live in the garage. Well, you can't do that in Chicago. You're free.
Right. Unless it's totally,
everybody living on the garage.
Unless it's totally set in, you're not gonna do that.
Right. I mean, but again, it's just the feeling of just hope and being inspired by fighting for what you believe in, and just having that hope and just fighting these injustices. And we're dealing with that now. What happened in the movie Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo is the same thing that's happening now. You have eminent domain, you have city and governmental agencies that are trying to come take people's property, tear stuff down, and build something that they think is going to make them millions of dollars. And those kids were not having it. I mean, Turbo could have lost his life. He stood in front of the bulldozer and said, "Bulldoze me." And he had actually gotten hurt in the movie. There's a scene in the movie where the construction workers were coming and they were doing some assessments. And so he took the guy's lunch, and he was running around, and he ended up falling down the stairs, and he broke his leg, and he ended up in the hospital. And that's how they ended up singing and dancing in the hospital. And it was pregnant women and surgery. It was like, can you imagine walking into the emergency room and people are pop locking and break dancing and spinning around? Just everywhere. So I'm just really excited. And, I just want to let people know I'm a one-woman operation. I do all of this stuff by myself. I barely have assistants. Sometimes I get volunteers to help me, but mostly it's all me. And so if I haven't worked fast enough for the public, my apologies. I'm just one person that's just trying to give back, to do something positive. And also, if you have any people in the Chicago or Gary, Indiana area, we're having a toy drive this Saturday, December 14th at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time in front of 2300 Jackson Street, which is Michael Jackson's childhood home. And we're giving away clothes, shoes, household items, school supplies, and toys. And everything is free.
Very nice. Okay, that is wonderful. So, Mother Diva, thank you so much. I've enjoyed talking to you. I've enjoyed you sharing such incredible knowledge and teaching me something and letting our listeners hear some of the magnitude of what this art has done for the last 40-plus years now. So I'm glad that you reached out to me and you're giving me an opportunity to be plugged into something that, you know, as a kid, I remember the movie. You know, it played all the time.
Well, most of us got to go back and watch it. I mean, I've been doing tributes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, since I've been doing tributes the last few years, because we gave Shabba-Doo a street sign last year in Chicago.
Right.
It's Ohio and Walcott, and actually it's no longer Ohio. But normally, now this is very interesting. I want to share this with people. Normally, when there is an honorary street sign, it usually goes on top or on the bottom of the regular street sign. They literally took Ohio sign street out and put in Adolfo Shabba-Doo Quinones Way, godfather of street dance, which I actually named the street sign.
Wow.
So I had an opportunity, yes. Shab always did stuff his way. And I had even talked to his family. I had emailed his family, and I said, what do you want the name to be? Way, street, avenue, lane, boulevard? And they didn't respond. I said, well, I'm just going to make it Way. Because if it was his way or the highway, that's how Shab was. If anybody knew Shabba-Doo, you know.
Absolutely. Well, that is amazing. But that goes as a testament to what he's contributed. And it's always awesome for your city to show love for you. So, man, Mother Diva.
Oh, yeah.
And fun. And,
unfortunately, Chicago passed an ordinance. You can only get a street sign if you're deceased. So, I guess in some ways that worked out.
Right. Wow. So is Fawn, she's going to be in attendance?
I am working on Fawn. Fawn did come in May for Breakin' One. So I did reach out to Fawn and her assistant. So we're hoping that Fawn will show up. But the director has also talked to other family members that said they're checking around to see if, they're able to attend, because we have to keep in mind, too, that this is the holiday season. So it's Christmas. Some people may be out of town or have other plans. So, but I mean, hey, the studio was the one that decided to release this movie on December the 19th when it should have been released in the summer.
Right, that says a lot. Mm-hmm.
We're going to be out there pop-locking and breakdancing in the cold.
Exactly.
Well, the thing of it is, it's not that cold in L.A. It's cold in Chicago, but, December in L.A. is still not that bad. Because I think when I spoke with you, you said it was, about 75?
Yes. It's still very seasonally warmer during the day right now for us, for sure.
Yeah. So, well, it's always, I noticed that about L.A. It's warm in the day and it's freezing cold at night,
Yeah,
So, yeah.
So you already understand. Like, that's what we're
I already understand. And I just want to thank you, Sonny, for allowing me to come on your platform and just share what I'm involved in, what I'm trying to do. And, I want to do a lot of positive things in our industry. There is so much negativity going on in the entertainment industry right now. So many people being exposed for, their past and things that they have done. And, it's okay to have a past. I mean, Malcolm X was Malcolm X was a thief and a liar and a drug dealer and did all kind of crazy stuff, but he's not known for that. Right. He went to jail. He gave his life to a cause, and he died for that cause. I mean, he became a great leader in the community. But unfortunately, we're dealing with people nowadays who can't seem to leave their past in the past, and they're continuing to do the same stuff that they was doing 30 years ago, which means you haven't grown up.
Correct.
You know, people need to grow up.
Absolutely.
You know, and with social media and the press and all the things, and this is why I don't understand why politicians do the stuff that they do. Like, we're dealing with politicians here in Illinois. One of our state senators, you know, went through a very public divorce. He was accused of domestic violence, and the governor asked him to step down. He refused, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, how can you be a state senator and you're doing all this dirt like no one is going to know about it? I mean, public figures in our community are just stupid because you're a public figure. You can't get away with nothing. I mean, they got cameras in your toilet, you know. Like, can you just be... If anything, you would think a public figure would be so straight and narrow because the eyes are always on them. Like a regular everyday person, ain't nobody checking for them, you know, so they may be able to get away with stuff. But you're a public figure and you still clowning like this? Yeah. It's unacceptable. Yeah. And the entertainment industry is supposed to be an industry about the people.
Yes, about uplift.
It's about the people. We are the salvation to the people because the people use entertainment to get away from their problems, to get away from their stress and strife. I mean, there was a poll done, Sonny, where people, you know, that were on a budget, and everybody said that they will not give up their entertainment. They rather give up gas than to give up their entertainment. They like, no, we can't give up our entertainment, you know. But it's just it's become so ratchet now. It's not quality, you know, like it was back in the day. It's just ratchet, and anyone is getting on television, and anyone is getting a record deal, and anyone can become president of the United States. You know, anyone. You know, our Congress. If you look at what the state and condition of the Congress that we're in now, it is senior citizens meet love and hip hop. It is the most ghetto, old folks home up there in Congress right now. This is who's making the decision.
It is rough.
Girl, they in there clowning and acting a fool like they on some reality show. I'm like, this is the United States Congress. You represent the people, and you acting like this?
Yeah.
They don't care?
Rough. It's pretty rough.
Well, I'm just hoping, you know, 2025 will bring about change and clean things up, but I'm going to continue to stay in the fight and continue to bring about justice and do what I got to do to continue to honor impactful art. A person like you who's in the community doing things, you're out there with the people, you have these platforms, and you're showcasing righteous material, and I appreciate you for that.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. And you know, it's always a grind. You know, it doesn't stop. So you know, as anybody can make mention, it's just better to stand in what you want and what you want to see versus waiting on people.
That's what you got to do.
So,
and I know you're a comedian. You do comedy shows. I want to also shout out Bill Bellamy. If anybody is listening, let Bill Bellamy. I did reach out to him. Bill Bellamy is crazy about Turbo. He had a really funny story about some stuff that had happened with Turbo that he tells on some interviews. And so I know that he was a huge supporter of the Breakin franchise. And another thing, too, a lot of people may not remember this because it had been so long, and you might not have realized it, but that's where Ice-T got his start. Ice-T was in Breakin and Breakin 2. He was the MC with Chris the Glove, the DJ.
Oh, wow.
And look at him now. I mean, he's like on Law and Order.
Right.
You know, but yeah, I mean,
right.
Ice-T the rapper.
Yes.
From Law and Order. He started in Breakin and Breakin 2. He was the MC at the Radiotron. Right. Layla Rashawn, was in Breakin and Breakin 2.
And that's shot
because at the time, yes, at the time, Layla Rashawn she was married to Shabadoo. That was his first wife.
Right.
And so she was in it. And I tell you somebody else who was an extra in Breakin' 1, and that was Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I saw that, and I don't remember.
Yeah.
So I got to look. I was like, girl.
Absolutely.
And
if anybody knows how to find Sabrina Garcia, we have been looking for this girl for years. She played Turbo's love interest. So we're trying to get her there. Hopefully Lollipop, Anna Sanchez, she'll come. She was with Electro Rock because when I talked about Poppin' Pete and Poppin' Taco from the first film, they were all in the Electro Rock group, and they were like Ozone and Turbo, which was TKO, was Turbo, Kelly, and Ozone, and that was their group, and so they were battle dancing them. So what ended up happening in Breakin' 2 is that Poppin' Taco and Anna Lollipop, they ended up on the other side. And then Poppin' Pete was not in that film. So, there had been some changes that had went on. And then Turbo got a love interest and, because he was getting older. So, he fell in love with this girl who couldn't even speak English. That was Sabrina Garcia. So, there are some cast members, we're still trying to find them. I mean, it's been 40 years. I'm good at finding folks, but, some people may not want to be found.
Exactly.
And then, of course, a lot of people have passed on, and we do have some memoriam certificates for those who have passed on as well. So, but I hope you can come by. I would love to see you.
Hey, I'm going to do my best, too. So I know that this is something that's significant, and I think it's just wonderful that you're able to supply the community such an opportunity of engagement. Like, it's crazy. Like, as you've been talking about everything, I'm just like, wow, and you're right. I was thinking about Ice-T. He's one of the few that's still very active. We're talking about 4 generations of time, and to know that he started from that perspective, right? And to see him pumping and still doing his thing. You know what I mean? So it's amazing. So, honey, Mother Diva, I appreciate you, honey. This has been amazing. We're kicked over.
It has been, and thank you so much.
Yeah, so we're going to make sure, so those who are listening to this actual content, check out, if you're in the LA area or Southern California and you can make it, if you're a huge, break, pop locking fan and street dancing enthusiast, I think this is something that would be an amazing opportunity to attend. And like Mother Diva said, it will be placed into Eventbrite, which will give great opportunity for people to get all of the details of the itinerary as we talked about it this evening. And any additional things that may come along, I'm sure she'll place that into that content so that you can have an opportunity to put it on your schedule and be a part of the festivities. So, Mother Diva, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you today, and I wish you well, and I look forward to talking to you and seeing you soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're so welcome, honey.
Okay. Mm-hmm.